In this video, I'm going to show you how to create your first project in Logic Pro X. I will take you through the settings and options in the very first window you will see when starting up Logic Pro X, which is the Create Project window. Alright, let's get started. When you start up Logic Pro X, this window will pop up on your screen. And it might look like a lot of options and settings here, but it's actually quite easy once you know what you can do here. So let's go through them one by one. To the left are the most important buttons: New Project, Recent, and My Templates. New Project is basically Logic Pro X internal templates plus an empty project you can choose to start with. The Recent tab are your recent projects, or basically your songs and tracks you worked on. And My Templates is where your own custom-made templates will end up once you save a project as a template. But you don't need to worry about that until later. So let's go back to New Project. In the New Project tab, you have the pre-made templates that comes with Logic Pro X. These can be a great starting point if you are new to the software. So let's take a look at one of them so you can see how a project can look like. Let's go with this songwriter template, and we will skip these settings for now. I just want to show you how a project can look like. So I click on Choose, and it is loading all the tracks and instruments into the project. So here we have it. What is a template in Logic Pro X? Well, basically a template is a project that already have tracks and instruments loaded into it, effects and routing already in place, and so on. Basically, it is a starting point so you can dive right into making music instead of setting all these things up yourself. Let's take a quick look on this specific template, which was called Songwriting. So what do we have here? Well, the first thing I see is a virtual drummer track with some parts already created. So let's take a listen. Alright, so that was the drum track. Then we have an audio track for guitar, another audio track for vocal, another one for bass, and finally a virtual instrument track with a grand piano already preloaded here. So let me play this virtual instrument so I can showcase what you can do with Logic Pro X. Alright, so that was only one example of the thousands of instruments that comes built into Logic Pro X. All the virtual instruments you can easily switch out, so here we have a Steinway grand piano, and you can easily switch it to any other instrument, let's say an acoustic guitar. And now this track all of a sudden sounds like this. I hope you can now start to see the power and potential of Logic Pro X. If you learn this software, you can do any style of music you like with any kind of instruments and sounds. The most important thing you need to learn about templates is that they are only starting points. So, with this template, you get these tracks already preloaded. But of course you can delete one of them if you don't need it. So let's click on the bass track, press delete, and it's gone. You can also add new tracks, change effects, and so on. Basically, you can do whatever you want because this is your project now. The main point is that it is created using a template, so you get a starting point instead of starting from a completely empty project. So that was the songwriter template, which you can choose to start a new project with. But you can also choose the hip-hop template, electronic, orchestral, multitrack, or music for picture. I recommend you to test these different templates to see how they look like before creating your own. You can also choose to start with a completely empty project. What does that mean really? Well, let's take a look and I will explain it for you. Click on Empty Project, skip these settings for now, and click on Choose. The first thing you will see when you start an empty project is this window here, because Logic wants every project to have at least one track, and there are no tracks yet in your project, so you have to create one. You can go with a default patch for software instrument, and skip these other settings for now, and just click Create. And the default patch is a classic electric piano. But as you can see, there are no other tracks loaded. So basically, starting a new empty project is like starting with a new blank slate. Alright, so let's go back to the starting window and go through the rest of the settings. So when you create a new project, you need to check these settings down here as well. And it might look like a lot of choices, but you can change these settings later when you have already created your project, and also there are only a couple of them that are really important. The first is Use Musical Grid. I recommend you to always have that checked. Then you can set the tempo, key signature or scale for your music, as well as the time signature. I never change these settings here because you can change them in the project later. But then comes the two most important settings in my opinion, which is input device, output device, as well as the sample rate. Basically, the input and output device is the audio interface. My audio interface is called Balance, so I have chosen that one here, as well as here. And then the sample rate, which basically is the quality of your audio recordings. The lowest one here is actually CD quality, but when you record your music, you usually want to have slightly higher, and then you can go down when you export the audio file. I recommend using at least 48 kHz as the sample rate, and if you have a really high-performing computer, I recommend going up to 96 kHz. The frame rate is only important if you're going to sync to video, and surround is only important if you're going to mix your music to surround, which basically is for movies. So, the most important settings again, input and output device, which should be your audio interface, and the sample rate, as well as always having the musical grid option checked. Alright! Now you can take your first steps in Logic Pro X. Start by testing out a couple of the pre-made templates to get a feeling for the different project setups. Then continue by creating your very first blank project and add tracks and effects to an empty slate. Good luck and happy music making! My name is Mike, signing out, and you rock, my friends!